What's up, Taiwan? I'm Reece Ayers with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. A major global freedom watchdog has awarded Taiwan for protecting democracy. Taiwan won the inaugural Beacon Award at the 2025 Freedom House Awards ceremony. The group highlighted the resilience of Taiwan's government and civil society in the face of escalating pressure from the Chinese Communist Party. Taiwan's de facto ambassador to the US, Alexander Yuan, accepted the honor on behalf of the government, and Changming-yen from the Taiwan Economic Democracy Union was there to represent civil society. For more on Taiwan's efforts to protect its democracy, our reporter Tiffany Wong spoke with Changming-yen, who was there to accept the award.
So Freedom House just gave its very first Beacon Award for Democracy to Taiwan. What does it mean that Freedom House is not only recognizing Taiwan's government, but also Taiwan's civil society with this honor?
I think for Freedom House, they value the Taiwanese democracy, and they want to emphasize that Taiwanese people are trying to sustain their own democracy, even though we are living under a military threat from the biggest authoritarian countries now in the world. For Freedom House, they are also recognizing that Taiwanese civil society is an indispensable political force in Taiwan's democracy. And it sometimes work with the Taiwanese government, sometimes it work independently from the Taiwanese government. And this is the very reason why we can keep our democracy vibrant in the current time.
So you were the representative of civil society accepting that award on Tuesday night. What was it like for you to represent not only your organization, the Economic Democracy Union, but also the rest of Taiwan's civil society?
Taiwanese people, we pursue democracy over a century. And we pursue democracy, and we form our own national security, and we practice democracy in our own land through elections, through social movement. For Taiwanese people, I think civil society is a key force for us to nurture the capable political party and to hold our political systems and the politicians accountable. And this is one of the reasons why Taiwan's democracy can remain vibrant, because there's always a political force called Taiwan civil society, and it continue to play a role in this system.
In naming Taiwan in this honor, Freedom House acknowledged that Taiwan faces threats to its democracy, especially from China. Could you talk a bit more about the threats that Taiwan's democracy faces both internally and externally?
Our democracy is very young, and it has been only 3 decades since the end of the martial law. So for Taiwanese people, we are still trying to consolidate the democratic systems into our daily life. But somehow it will become vulnerable toward the Chinese infiltrations. For example, the Chinese sharp power, they would undermine our media environment, and Chinese government, they feed the disinformation campaign to our democracy. We are also facing a lot of gray zone tactics from China. For example, recently there are lots of submarine cable were cut off by some suspicious entities with a connection with CCP regime. But for Taiwan, compared to China, which is the biggest authoritarian regime in the world now, so it will be very challenging for Taiwan to defend ourselves without other assistance from the Democratic Alliance. However, we have to show our steadfast determination to defend ourselves. Only with this determination we can convince our friend from the international community to work with us.
That was Jiangming Yen, non-resident fellow at the Economic Democracy Union. Over 300 public sector workers in Taiwan have traveled to China illegally over the past decade. That's according to a new report by Taiwan's government watchdog. By law, most Taiwanese public servants must get approval before visiting China. But a recent investigation by the Control Yuan found at least 318 officials made the trip without permission, including 55 high-level officials. The watchdog says the real number could be much higher, with many cases possibly slipping through the cracks. It's now urging the government to strengthen oversight. Smartphones in class could soon be a thing of the past, as Taiwan's Education Ministry molds stricter regulations that could force schools to keep their students' mobile phones under lock and key. The time between classes is a brief window for students to hop on Instagram or get in a few rounds on their favourite mobile game. But having constant mobile phone access at schools in Taiwan could soon be a privilege revoked. Taiwan's Education Ministry has submitted a draft bill that would mean stricter regulations on students using phones in schools from September. Lawmakers agree that phones are having a negative impact on young people's education, but say any solution needs to include their perspectives too.
手机规范的管理应该是我们要来帮助在校园里面的学习品质，但是绝对不能造成校园民主的倒退。所以尊重学生的声音，我们希望教育部一定要来坚持。
As it stands, the draft bill will force elementary and junior high schools to collect and store all students' phones for the entire school day. For senior high schools, they'll need to formulate their own smartphone policies after consulting with teachers, parents and students. Students will only be given access to their phones in case of an emergency or if it's needed for educational purposes. The proposed changes are welcomed by many, though some are concerned about how they'll be implemented.
Well, I think it's a great idea, but with most things like this, the devil is in the details, and actually executing it is going to be a challenge. I mean, these are very expensive devices that you're separating from their owners, which leaves the issue of liability there. The school where I'm currently employed has already banned cell phones, but students still do find a way to get them and use them in class.
And while many students agree phones can be a distraction, particularly for younger children, some senior high schoolers say they could be losing a valuable learning tool.
因为有些东西你是不一定只能在书本上或是问老师就可以问得到的东西，而且因为班上人数这么多，所以你要查一个东西的时候，也要自己善用自己身边的工具。
对我来讲，高中生应该是可以完全自主使用手机。那国小跟国中的话，我还是会觉得，国小的话，我觉得是建议不要用手机，因为确实不太，就是还在发育的年龄，感觉还不太会可以自己管控手机的使用方式。
If passed, Taiwan would join a growing list of countries with some form of phone ban in schools, including China, Australia, and many across Europe, as education officials the world over turn on to the idea of getting students to turn these off. Chris Ma and Reece in Taipei for TaiwanPlus. Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Before we go, let's take a look at a French teenager whose passion for bells has led him to catalogue more than 1,000 of them. I'm Reece. Take care and see you next time.
I'm Tiffany Wong in Georgetown, Penang, and you're watching Taiwan Plus.